The Bronco is gone, but we have replaced it with a new car behind the store. It's a Tesla, but hear me out. So yes, an electric car. I know it's not what anyone really expected on this channel, especially with all the distaste I've had towards them and certain stuff I've said about them in the past, but let me explain. Like I said before, there's a reason why I decided to go for a Tesla in this climate. And another thing I will mention is it's not my car. This is actually my mom's car, and she had little to no influence in this purchase because I basically forced her to buy it. And there's a good reason. Now, obviously, this is a car channel that's been thoroughly dedicated to internal combustion engines. And in the past, I've talked about how electric cars aren't the future, how electric cars aren't really feasible for everyone, how electric cars, well, they're just not good for the environment in the way the government makes us think they are. But there is certain aspects where electric cars are good. And as a self-proclaimed automotive journalist, I can't speak on them without ever driving one, and especially without ever owning one and really experiencing it. Will this car change my mind, and will I go electric after experiencing this one? Let's jump in and find out, because it's too cold outside. It's so nice in here compared to the Bronco. That's the biggest thing I hated about the Bronco. And the biggest thing I like about this is just quiet. Barely any road noise, no motor noise, no transmission slapping around. It just goes. Also, if I push the stock down, it also just drives for you, basically. This isn't the performance, but it's the regular one. But if I mash it, we're going 25 right now. Oh my God, that's 55 right there. It just moves. It's fun. It's fun. The acceleration is fun. It gets old after like a little bit, but I haven't driven the car all too much. The biggest thing about driving a Tesla, if you've never driven a Tesla, never driven an electric car, is instant torque is crazy, of course, but you also never use your brake. You basically never use it if you drive it right because of the regenerative braking. So when you let off the pedal, and if you let off a certain amount, it starts to regenerative brake, and you've got a little kind of gauge in front of you as to how much regenerative braking you're using or pedal you're using. And when you let off the pedal, it basically brakes. And I've heard people say like 100,000 miles and still no brake work done to a Tesla. Simplicity at its finest, which is the reason why I wanted to get a Tesla. So talking more about our specific car, this is a 2025 Model Y. The base MSRP of this Model Y was $51,000 before EV tax credit and before paying tax for the car. Now with the Tesla, there's only a few options you can choose from. This particular one is blue with white interior, and it has a tow hitch. When you take the $7,500 tax credit out of it, MSRP and the real cost of the car becomes $43,000. Now the tax credit plays a major factor into it, and I think without the tax credit, these cars would be a little unjustifiable. But under $45,000, there's not too many cars that actually compete with it, so when the tax credit hits, it becomes really appealing. Now for around $43,000, what can you really get with your money at the moment? Well, you could get a brand new fully loaded Prius for just about $40,000. You could get that or a Model Y. Depending on your needs, both of them could be really good options. Now let's look at the Bronco. I had a Bronco. If I wanted to get another Bronco for the same price as the Model Y, it would have to be a base model Bronco or Model Y. Also, when looking at another electric car, if we're looking at Ford's electric car, you can get a base Mach-E. I hate to say this, but there's a lot of bang for your buck when you're buying the Model Y. Now, after having a lot of car troubles this year, my Miata, my RX-7, my C5 Corvette, and of course my Bronco that got bought back by Ford. If you haven't watched that video, I go over everything in the previous video. Check it out after this one. But after all of those issues, around September, I'm like, man, electric cars don't have any of those problems. And then Tesla started rolling out a ton of incentives. Going into this, I had already started to contemplate electric vehicles for a little bit. They started to grow on me. I started to understand them. In the past, the reason why I didn't like them is for two particular reasons. Number one is because electric cars are made to seem like they are saving the planet when they're really not that much better. Of course, they're getting better as time is going on as far as legitimately saving the planet and gas cars dying and all of those things. So electric cars are not the eco-saver or whatever, but what they are is a fantastic daily, like I said before. But the second reason I don't like electric cars, and it's the reason why many of us enthusiasts actually despise electric cars and EVs, is because they're killing off internal combustion engines. But the government mandates are really what's killing the enthusiast cars and not the electric market, because the electric market has spoken that people don't want to buy electric cars. As a daily driver, you're not spending money on fuel. You're spending about half, if not a quarter, of what you would in terms of fuel and energy consumption, I guess I'll say. To charge a Tesla in my area, it was about $25 to $30, where in the Bronco, let's look at the range real quick, we're about 51%, so I have 157 miles, so let's say 120 miles. In the Bronco, that $25-$30 would have cost $50 or $60 for the same amount of range. So when you're looking at it from a perspective like that, you are spending about half of what you would with gas. And if you're charging at home, it's probably significantly lower. It's a whole new territory jumping into this, and it's actually a whole lot of fun, I'm not gonna lie. This doesn't make me want to go fully electric by any means, but as a daily driver, not having problems, doing no maintenance, spending half of what you're spending, and getting to enjoy things like my RX-7, my Miata, when I want to enjoy them. With a Tesla, you can put all those miles on it, not care about it at all, and then reserve those special moments for your special cars. Because do you really want to be sitting in 405 traffic in a BMW M3 with a manual? Probably not. Now, going fully electric for everyone is not feasible from an energy perspective, from people not having ability to charge their cars overnight. Some people drive too much, all of those things. If you're someone who's going from A to B, B back to A on a daily basis, you're going maybe 100 miles round trip. Honestly, a Tesla is the perfect car. And by Tesla, of course, I mean an electric vehicle. I just think that there aren't too many good EVs on the market. And obviously Tesla being, I would say, the leader in the United States as far as EVs go, this would be one of the ones, and the one that I did consider buying. And I'll say this one thing, I didn't consider a single other manufacturer or a single other car than the Tesla Model Y. And the simple reason is I don't like any other manufacturer's electric car offerings other than Rivian, which are too expensive, and the cheaper models or the more affordable models have not come out yet. Now, to give you guys a little bit of a walk around, if you're not familiar with Tesla, I still have a lot to learn with this vehicle, and I'll be the first to admit that. But this is a Tesla Model Y. This is the second from base car, I guess you can say. The lowest trim is their regular Model 3, and this is like the SUV version of the Model 3. Now, they updated the Model 3, and you can get a updated Model 3 or a Model Y currently for the exact same price. Model Ys are going to jump up in price from what I was told when the new update comes out. With a Tesla, there's no key. You simply just get into the vehicle, and the way you unlock, lock, and your key is actually this right here. So just like all manufacturers, you have the Tesla app. And usually phone apps from manufacturers are completely useless. They're always super laggy, super buggy, glitchy, they always crash, and that's not the case with this whatsoever. Now, if you have the app open on your phone and we turn the phone off, the Model Y locks itself, as you guys heard, folds the mirrors in, but if I come, it'll unlock for me simply because it knows the key is on me. You can also program a bunch of stuff. You can turn the climate on. You can go through all of the climate settings in the car. You can even program it on a schedule, but let's say you're going to leave your house in 5 minutes. You don't have to warm up a motor, but you got to warm up the interior, especially out here in Wisconsin. So you can just simple click of a button. It'll turn on to the settings that were last on the car. You have a whole bunch of other options, location, and you also have controls. You can lock, unlock, open the rear hatch, or even pop the frunk. So because this is an electric car, there's no motor, and you actually have storage up in the front, which is super helpful, super awesome, just a little awkward to use. You can only pop the frunk from your phone or from the screen, which isn't the biggest deal in the world, but it's annoying that you can't just press a button and it pops it. Tiny little space for extra storage, but the main storage is in the back. In the back of the Tesla, you have a ton of room, all the room you would ever need in my opinion. You also have switches right here, which will flip the seats forward. You have to manually adjust those back up, but you also have a button for the rear hatch there, and you have one right here. When stepping into the back of the Model Y, we have plenty of room back here. I have plenty of leg room being 6 foot, and I have nothing to complain about. And you have a massive glass panel above you, which is severely tinted. I thought maybe that would de-tint with the press of a button. Maybe I'm too ambitious, but it just stays like very darkly tinted, which isn't the worst thing in the world. And if you wonder how to exit a Tesla, there's no latch or anything. You simply just press the button. Now, when you step into the driver's seat, you got phone charger there, a small storage here, small storage there. You got cup holders, and basically nothing else except the screen. Now the screen here basically controls everything. I'll put my foot on the brake, it'll turn everything on. Put it into drive real quick. You can see right here, you'll get how many miles per hour you're going, but we're not going anywhere right now. So you set your seat, you set your mirrors, you set everything, and then you just click your profile, and well, every single time you get in, it'll just automatically go to where you set them last. And then on here, you have all your trip data settings, your autopilot, charging, everything that you would need with this vehicle here. You got it on the screen. Now you can play games on your Tesla, and you also have Netflix when you're charging and waiting. Speaking of charging and waiting, let's talk a little bit about what it's like to charge this car. Now there's a few different ways to charge your Tesla. The first way is superchargers. A supercharger is basically a Tesla gas station. They're a lot more scarce in places like Wisconsin, but they're still out there, and if you're looking to do a road trip, you can still justify it and go pretty much anywhere you need to go. The supercharger charges your car to about 80% in half an hour, which, if you're looking to do a road trip or even regular day commuting, you really don't want to charge your car over 80%. That's the recommended percentage to keep your battery healthy. Now there's two options when it comes to home charging. There's the upgraded home charger and there's the base home charger. The upgraded one you're going to have professionally installed, while the other one plugs into the wall like a normal phone or fridge or appliance. You're going to be plugging your car in several days a night, or perhaps every night, depending on how many miles you actually drive. Now with the regular one, we're plugging in every basically 5 to 7 days, depending on how much it's driven, and we're currently in the middle of winter and it is very cold here in Wisconsin. I hope to see it go to possibly 10 days in the summer. Also, if you're driving on the highway, this is the opposite of every car. When you're driving on the highway compared to a city, you usually get better fuel economy. In a Tesla, you get less range on the highway, and in the city you get more range, obviously because there's no regenerative braking when you're on the highway. You're just driving straight, but on a city, you're stopping and going a lot, which regenerates the battery a little bit. So on a highway, you get less range, and in the cold, you definitely get less range. Now, just because I've said all of those good things about the car doesn't mean there aren't things I don't like. And some of the things I don't like about it, I've not liked since before even buying it. There's a big reason as to why I didn't want to get a Tesla, and those reasons are still apparent, and I still think it's a little bit of an excuse. And the biggest thing is minimalism. Minimalism is great. I love simplicity, and at heart, that's what an electric car is. That's also what a rotary was supposed to be, but different story, because that's literally the antithesis of what this is. But with minimalism, companies use that word and that marketing strategy as an excuse to cheap out and cut corners. Now, I'm not saying that's what Tesla has done, but when you look at the interior of a Tesla, it makes you wish for more. When the Model 3 first came out, I went to go look at them, and honestly, the build quality was very poor. Went to go look at the Model Y, very robust compared to the earlier years. But the biggest thing for me about the Model 3, and the reason why I never wanted to get one, was because the screen was off-centered from where your line of vision is. There's no screen in front of you, there's no digital display, there's no like auto detinting on the sunroof like I said before. Don't know how expensive something like that would be, but I think it's possible. Now, again, comparing it to other new vehicles, somehow this is still very acceptable. Now, there's a reason why Chinese manufacturers haven't been allowed to produce and make cars in America. It's because they would kill companies like this. Those cars would be half the price, just as good, and well, they'd probably outsell. The reason why I really wanted to get a Model S or a Model X, and when we went to go look at the showroom cars, was because they have a screen in front of you. It makes the car feel so much more premium, but those cars are ridiculously priced. A Model X is like $80,000 or $90,000. I thought they were gonna be like 60. It's like, okay, yeah, we can jump up, but they're just so expensive. Unjustifiable, especially after the depreciation, because these things tank in value. And another big part of why, maybe let's not get a Model X. Going along with minimalism, subscriptions for everything. The ridiculous price of the Tesla subscription for autopilot, $99 a month. If it was like 20 bucks a month, probably would have done it, to be honest with you. But for $99 and for the features you're getting standard, get out of here, bro. That's crazy money. It was fun to use for the 1 month trial that we had it for, but outside of that, whatever, man. I can totally live without it and save $100 per month. The whole point of this thing was to be cheap and also experience something new. Now, it's just not the Tesla $99 subscription. There's also a subscription to open your garage door, and then otherwise you have to spend like $300 to get the transceiver like put in. And I haven't found a way, and I don't think that there's a different way to program it to just open it on the click of a button, because you have to pay for that. I think that's ridiculous. Why do you have to pay a subscription to open your garage door? Transceiver. It makes no sense. Just have the stupid button like every other car. Now, the self-driving, if you don't want to pay the $100 subscription, you can also pay $8,500 for the full program, which is non-transferable and transfers with the car instead of your account. And I'm also not sure how it works with different users on the same car. I'm assuming since it's transferable with the car, it goes to all the accounts. But simply, why? Why is it that expensive? I understand it's the leading cutting edge technology. It's a really cool function, and there's so much availability with it, and it is kind of like a fun toy. But for $8,500, if it was like $3,500, probably would have got it once again. If it was $5,000, it would have been a consideration. But for $8,500, I'll buy another car. Just to be honest with you, I'll buy 2 more Miatas before I spend $8,500 on Tesla Autopilot. For the people who want it, I understand it. For the people who live in traffic cities, maybe the $100 subscription makes sense. For me, once again, 0 cents. Was definitely cool and will not say it wasn't cool. And the final thing that I just dislike about the car is how many beeps it makes. It beeps so much. It's crazy. One of the reasons that this car is starting to just make me mad in the very small time I've driven it is you get a little too close to the curb when you're pulling up to a drive-through, and you gotta get close to the curb, it's gonna scream at you. You're backing up into the garage, it's gonna scream at you. You're sitting at a red light with the person in front of you and the light turns green and the person's sitting there asleep, it's gonna beep at you. And it's like, bro, I can't go anywhere. There's a car in front of me. So she's a little temperamental. Also, just a little bit of weather. We bought the car early November, so the weather was never great. It was raining the day we bought it. Every single time I tried using autopilot almost, and given I haven't driven the car too many times, it's always said that a camera is covered or a camera is dysfunctional and autopilot is degraded to some extent. Every single time I've used it. So this car actually has a tow hitch. I hope it has a tow hitch. It's supposed to have one from the factory, but you have to use a screwdriver to pry the piece open to get underneath this plastic thing to see the hitch and access it. I tried opening it, and 8 out of 10 times you're probably going to damage and scratch the plastics to get that thing off. Oh, by the way, if you're seeing that the car is dirty, I washed it before this video. Now, a question that I've been wondering, and you guys have been wondering as well, can a person fit inside of the frunk? Let's find out. Yeah, I'm gonna say this right now before even getting into it. No, there's not a single chance that all 190 pounds of me is fitting into there. Tesla has failed the test. This is the first car we've ever had fail the trunk test. And this is the first ever frunk test. And with all of that said, that is the new vehicle that has replaced the Bronco. Now, in my collection, I'm not too sure what the next vehicle is. I've sold a couple. We still got a couple fun ones, but well, it's to be determined. As always, if you guys did enjoy this video, found information or whatever it is, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and I will see you guys in the next video. Oh my God, it's so cold. For what? Did I forget to hit record? Oh, my brain is fried. No, we're recording. On the stock here, if I click, I get... No, stop. Please, please stop.